Good morning, everybody. You are listening to the Cindy Cochran Show right here in beautiful downtown Conroe, Texas. Yes. And we have an extremely special guest today. I'm so excited about having her on. I have had the opportunity to talk to her a few times, and it's so much fun. It's just like, somebody I've known all my life. She has that kind of personality that just, you love it. You love her just, a few minutes after you talk to her. But this person came to me through Don Wilson. Everybody knows Don Wilson. He's my LA connection. And his story was so fascinating because he was mentored by Elvis Presley. And all you Elvis Presley fans out there, be calling your friends right now because we've got an incredible amount of insight. Don Wilson has given us a bunch through his connection with Elvis and how long he knew him and what all Elvis did for him. And then Don introduced me to Mindi. Mindi was one of Elvis's last loves, and we are so excited to have this kind of angle from her angle of what Elvis was like in that world, that surreal world it must have been for her. And so we're going to be asking her questions. If you have questions that you'd like to ask her, please message me on the Cindy Cochran Show Facebook page. Just go to messages and ask me. Even my sister, and her and one of her son-in-laws. Just so many people have said, I've got a question, and they just love Elvis. They love it. But what's so great about Mindi is that Mindi has waited a long time before she started giving interviews. And the reason is because she wanted to give the good side, the positive side of all the things that Elvis has done, because some of his friends, girlfriends, and whatever has kind of exploited and went negative with him, and it was sad. So she finally decided, okay, I'm coming out on this, and she wanted to tell the story. And I'm so excited because that's what I want to know about, the positive side and the fun side of Elvis. That's what I'm interested in. That's what she's interested in. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Mindi Miller. Good morning, Mindi.
Good morning, Cindy.
See, you just love her already. I mean, that's a fabulous...
I love it. It's Mindi and Cindy. I love that.
That's right. I know. We need to have our own show. We'll just do a separate show of the Mindi and Cindy show.
Know.
And I just think that everything that we talked about was so great, and you had such good things to say, even starting out with the fact that Elvis, when he wanted to get out and just do normal stuff, that he would do it, and you went to a gas station and he pumped his own gas. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. He had just purchased a car for me. We were in Las Vegas, and we were staying at Dr. Ghanem's condo in Las Vegas, and he had purchased a car for me and a car for Dr. Ghanem's cousin, and mine was a white Trans Am 455 Hurst 4 or 5-speed clutch, which I didn't know at the time, but it was a big, big muscle car. And those cars today, forget the Elvis name on it, but those cars today are worth between $35,000 and $50,000.
Oh, my word!
Because I sold it.
Oh, you did?
No. Yeah, well, it's hard. It's hard to keep cars 40 years because
right.
You've got to have the upkeep. You've got to be able to, the engines. You've got to have a place to put them. So the cars are an upkeep. So most of the people that I know that received cars from Elvis have sold them, and so, there are people that have them somewhere. I did find out that particular car, I looked it up recently a couple of weeks ago, is still owned by the person and is garaged, but they won't tell me in the DMV who has it because I actually wanted to get the car back. But he bought me this car. And it had the big eagle on the hood because, he loved eagles. He had his eagle jumpsuit. He was very American. He loved this country. So the eagle was a big thing, a representation for him. He loved animals. And a lot of the jewelry that he had that were animals all had a special meaning. So we got in the car, and he said, honey, let's take the car for a drive. And I said, oh, great, let's go. So a couple of the guys, I forget who, it could have been Al Strata. I don't remember because we're going back 40 years. But
Right.
a couple of the guys were in the back seat. I was riding shotgun, and we pulled into a gas station to get gas. And he started pumping the gas himself. And he would on occasion do these fun things to see if people would recognize him and what they would do. He loved to get a reaction. He loved to kind of shock people,
Right.
get a reaction.
I love that.
I mean, you and I would take that as a very normal thing to go pump gas.
Right.
And he would too, but not at that stage of his life.
Yeah.
You know, when he was a young teenager, you know, and his mom and daddy bought him his first car. I want to say it was a 49 or 50, I forget what it was. But he'd, of course, go pump his own gas. But he goes into the gas station, and there were people there, not a lot, but he starts pumping the gas. And he looks back at me kind of this like, kind of chuckle.
Uh-huh.
You know, and I'm thinking, oh, Lord, here we go. I can feel something coming right now. And he's pumping the gas, and the guys are sitting in the back going, okay, you know, how long is this going to last? And slowly but surely, people started looking at him going, that can't be who we think it is.
Right.
And,
right.
you know, a couple of people went up to him and kind of looked at him. And then I kind of saw them mouthing, like, are you Elvis? And he'd kind of look back at the car and go, well, hey, how are you? And shook their hand and this and that. And then the guys got out of the car and thought, you know, just for protection, we better just kind of go up and, you know, because he started talking to them, and then they wanted the autograph. So then the guys kind of took over pumping the gas, and then more people came, and friends of those people that were standing outside the gas pump got out of the car. And so slowly but surely people started coming up, you know. And so finally, when it was all done and there was a little crowd of people around him that were there at the gas station, he said, well, you know, it's been nice meeting you all and this and that. And then he did the most incredible thing. He paid for everybody's gas.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, he paid for everybody's gas. And I'm like, who does things like that?
No, that's so awesome.
Isn't it? I mean, just little stories, little sweet things like that.
Yeah.
And you know, I didn't know that until he got back in the car. And, you know, then one of the guys had said to me, but he had told one of the guys, get out the credit card and just pay for everybody's gas. So he went up to the you know, and then the gas station attendant came up, and it was in the evening. It was at night.
Yeah.
Because he bought me the car at night. In fact, I think it was like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So by the time we got to the gas station, it was probably 10 or 11, and you know, so it was at night. He did a lot of stuff at night.
Right.
So he said to the gas station attendant, you know, pay him for everybody's gas, and gave him the credit card, and there it was. People were in shock. I mean, like, not only did they get to meet Elvis Presley, but you know, if they were filling up their tank, they got a free tank of gas from Elvis, you know.
That's so awesome. I love that story. That's the kind of stuff,
isn't it?
you know, that's the kind of stuff
just
none of us would ever find out about, so that's great.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's the little things that he did as the man that, unless you were with him in that moment, it's the things that he did in those moments that are so cherished and so beloved and so sweet and so positive and so loving, you know, just stuff like that, you know.
Well, I love the story when you and I talked about you had met Elvis. You saw him in, you know, on the strip. You saw him in a car, and you had that magic moment of just looking at him looking at you, and thinking, I'm going to meet that guy someday. And 2 years later, you get to go to this party at his house, but you didn't know who was going to be there. You didn't know if he was going to be there. And you go in there, and the Memphis Mafia kind of vets you to ask you questions about, you know, your life and all that. And you get to... He comes in, and you get to see him, and you told me that in your interview that you had done, I saw that he put on the karate suit and did a demonstration for you with the guys, and it was surreal. It was weird because you thought it was going to be like a party, like a lot of people were going to be there, but you were the only one there, right?
I was the only one there. I had no idea.
Surprise!
No idea. And it was very strange because when I got to the front door, one of the guys came to the front door and he said, oh, you must be Mindi. And I thought, well, how does he know I'm Mindi? There are a ton of people here, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so that kind of stayed with me. And then I was led into a large room, and they told me to sit down on a couch, and all the guys were sitting around. and then just started, like you say, vetting me and asking me all these questions. And I thought, well, this is really weird. I had no idea. And, who are you, and where did you grow up, and how did you grow up, and do you believe in God, and do you have a religion, and what things do you like to do, what books do you like to read? And it was basically an interview to see if they thought, knowing him, that we would get along.
Right. That's so unusual. That's so strange. But of course, you'd expect it, looking back. But you told me the coolest thing is that you feel like the reason that Elvis was so drawn to you and actually fell in love with you was because of what you said about your knowledge of him. Now, don't answer yet, because we've got to go to a break, Mindy. So we're going to use that as our, the tease. And we'll be right.
Okay.
We'll be right back on the Cindy Cochran Show with one of Elvis Presley's last girlfriend, Mindi Miller. She is a delight. She's got so many stories. We'll be right back.
The Cindy Cochran Show, the first daily talk show serving Montgomery County.
Lone Star Community Radio is FM. That's right. Set your radio dials and your button presets to Conroe's FM 104.5 and 106.1, coming in June of 2016. To celebrate this edition and the addition of video versions of our talk and music shows on YouTube, cable TV, and Our City TV, we are offering special sponsorships rates, which include free audio spots that are played throughout our broadcast. Interested? Check out our sponsor rates for shows just like the one you're listening to online at irlonestar.com/sponsor, or call the station at 936-647-5747. Reaching the people of Montgomery County with Montgomery County's community radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
The Cindy Cochran Show. You ain't heard nothing yet.
And we're back. And he's so right. You haven't heard anything yet. We're talking to Mindi Miller, former girlfriend of Elvis Presley. And boy, the stories she could tell, but she's not telling everything. She's only talking about really good stuff that happened, and what a great guy that Elvis was. And that's what we want to hear. That's what we like to hear. Now, I just teased with the fact that there was a reason that he really was drawn to you, and you told me about what your knowledge or lack of there was. And so tell me about that aspect of it.
Well, the first night that I met him, he was, first of all, he's a very, very spiritual man and very religious man, and he was brought up Pentecostal and Baptist, and more so Baptist before they moved to Graceland from Tupelo, and then went to a Pentecostal church when he moved to Graceland. But the thing of it is that I had always had a big belief system in the God of my understanding and raised as a Christian. And as I got to know him that night and we started talking and everything, we had so much in common. And I had already started karate classes. I had been doing a lot of stunt work in the films that I did. And I already had a love of firearms and karate and a lot of things that a lot of ladies, are not into.
Right.
But the most important thing to me was his spiritual aspect. And as the night went on our first date, after he did the karate exhibit with Dave Hebler and the guys for me, he had him call the Bodhi Tree, which was my favorite spiritual bookstore in Los Angeles.
Tell everybody what time it was that he called this bookstore.
Oh, it was in the middle of the night. It was probably, 2 or 3 in the morning.
Right.
And for someone to answer their phone, but obviously he had done this before. So maybe they had a red phone knowing, it's Elvis calling us. It's 3 a.m., Elvis is calling us, so we'll pick up the phone. So I had lived down the block from the Bodhi Tree, which was my favorite bookstore, and that's where I got all my spiritual books. So to find out that this incredible entertainer, we were on the same path in that way, this really hit both of us, and we really already saw that in each other. And I think as a spiritual person and as an old soul, which Elvis was, you recognize each other. I recognize people today when I meet them, or even when I speak with them. I can hear them. I can hear the influx in them. And he had all this. And he had the guys go pick up books from the Bodhi tree, specific books that he wanted me to read and start studying with him. And the guys brought the books in that night. We started reading from them and underlining and things like that. And this, for us, we were so thrilled. And we went up into his bedroom, which I was a little reticent to do because obviously it was the first date, and I didn't know his program, his whole thing. Right. And his bedroom for him was his sanctuary, because that's where he could be alone with his girlfriend. And that was his private time to do things and not share with the guys. And, you know, a lot of people might think that was something else. And what is somebody doing in a bedroom with Elvis Presley on your first date? Nothing.
There you go.
He was not that kind of a man at all. That was his private sanctuary where we read, he sang to me, we talked, we got to know each other without the guys around. Because we always had the guys around.
What did he sing to you?
He sang his new release, which is called Trouble, which Travis Tritt also did. And I loved the song. It became one of my favorite songs that Elvis ever did. Not because he sang it to me so much, but because I just loved it. It was a very hard, fast, driving song. And he didn't sing it too much. It was very wordy for him. And he sometimes had a problem in concerts and he would say this and the audience would hear it, well, I hope I remember the words, and if I don't, bear with me. And sometimes, you know, he'd have a sheet of paper with the words on it. It was a really wordy song. Right. And it was really quick. And so he didn't sing it that often. And then it did not become part of his repertoire. But he sang that to me. He had just finished recording it that day. So that was something very special, and he wanted to introduce me to that song that night.
Well, I think that how surreal it must have been. I mean, because you were much younger than he was, but you knew him. You knew who he was. But what you were into was not his music at that time. Is that correct?
The thing is, I loved his music. I loved him as an entertainer. I loved him as an actor. But I wasn't, quote unquote, I wasn't a fan. Right. At that time, you know, I was living in Southern California, which I still am right now. And I was more of a surfer girl. You know, I was brought up in the San Fernando Valley. We had a thing called Valley Girl. Yes, and if you were a Valley Girl, you went to Bob's Big Boy. You know, they had, on Wednesday nights, they had all those tricked out cars that would go up and down. Right. And so I was into the surfer guys like Troy Donahue and Fabian, and Tommy Sands was big at that time. Yeah. And I loved Elvis, but I wasn't a fan. I wasn't the girl that cut out the pictures, put them on my wall. I wasn't, you know, nuts, crazy about him. I loved him. I saw him on the Ed Sullivan Show, but I was never a big fan in that way. Right. And then, of course, later I found out that he did not date his fans. He would be friends with them after a while if he got to know them. Right. But it wasn't on a romantic level or an emotional level. And so when I met him that first night, Cindy, I was very calm. I mean, I had already been working in the entertainment industry since I was 12 years old. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in it. Both of my parents were in it. So I had been in and around a lot of entertainers, very famous entertainers. Right. When I met him, I was very calm. I mean, I was excited to meet him, but not even knowing if he was there. And then when I realized that I was the party, basically, and they said, well, you know, Elvis will be in here in a minute, I was like, oh, okay. So it wasn't that giddy kind of schoolgirl, oh my God, I've got to get an autograph or this or that, because he would have perhaps given me an autograph, talked to me, given me some little things as a memento, and talked to me, and then, you know, probably sent me home. It would have been a very different scenario. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, don't call us, we'll call you. Exactly. But I think that it's so amazing that once you got past that and y'all talked for so long, there's so much you had in common. And did he ever ask you, like, was that kind of prefaced maybe in when the
Memphis Mafia talked to you, did they tell you that about the fan thing? Are you a fan of Elvis? Do you have all his records? Or did anyone ask you that?
I don't remember anyone asking me that. Isn't that funny? I don't remember that, and it's such a good question. I don't remember anyone asking me that. It was really more based on personal things. It was very much of a personal kind of, like you said, vetting, an interview. What kind of things did I believe in? Did I believe in God? Did I believe in the Bible? What interests did I have? Did I have a favorite color? Did I have a favorite number? Because he was very into numerology and colors and auras. We talked a lot about auras that night.
Right.
Very much. They did not go into life after death, and they did not ask me about spiritual things, which was, they asked me if I was spiritual, but they themselves did not go into it because none of them were spiritual.
Yeah, they didn't understand it.
They weren't, and that was one of the things that was missing for him, and one of the reasons in many areas of his life where people will read on Facebook or certain things where he was very lonely, because he didn't have that in common with many people. He had that in common, obviously, with Larry Geller, with a few people, but it was not, for him, it was really basic. I mean, he was always that way from the time he can remember. So even with me, I have very dear friends, but they're not spiritual people. They're wonderful friends, and I adore them. But when I start talking to them about spirituality, they're just like, well, what is that? And you either know what that is and have it in your life, or you don't.
Sure. Well, I think that's what's so cool to find out is that he did want to talk about that. He was hungry to have someone to understand and get him about that part of it. I think I related to you that I had interviewed Tom Jones, and when one of the guys that one of his mafia people, but it's funny, Elvis and Tom Jones surrounded themselves with people that they've known like for a long time, and they have to be, very loyal to them and all. But this guy told me that, I said, well, so you've been over to Elvis Presley's house? And they went, oh yeah, of course, yeah, they're friends, and we've been over there. And he said, but it's not as much fun to go over to Elvis' house anymore. And I said, why? And he said, because all he wants to do is talk about the Bible and stuff. It's really, like, that's not what we want to talk about or what we want to do. Yeah. And so I love that. That just made me feel great to feel like that's what he wanted to talk about. And I think a lot of fans would find that, good. So that.
Well, I think Cindy, the people that raise him up today, the people that do raise him up and don't just talk about a new hotel or a new album or a new this or a new that, which is all wonderful in his name to remember him by, but they don't talk about the spirituality of him.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
They don't talk about his belief system. They talk about, well, he would have wanted this or he would have wanted that. And that's fine, and maybe some of that is true, maybe some of that's not true. We can only go by what other people say, and we hope that they're telling the truth. But on a guttural level of who this man was, he was more than anything a spiritual entity. And this is where he came from with his shows. This is where he came from with how he treated people, with how he was raised by his mama and daddy. This is the essence of who this man was. And this is the person that I would love people to know. After the funeral, the Inquirer and the Star magazine came to me and wanted to interview me. And I said no, and then they offered me money. And I said no amount of money could be offered to me to talk about the things that you want to discuss. I said, if you want to talk about the greatness of this man as a human being, let alone as an entertainer, and if you want to talk about the spirituality of this man and allow me through him to enlighten you to who he wants his fans and the public to really know, then I'll be thrilled to talk to you. And I don't want to. I wouldn't take a penny for it. But nobody ever wanted to talk about that. And this is who he was, and this is how he wants to be remembered, and this is what he told me that how he would like to be remembered by people, and not in any other fashion. Right.
And I love that you're carrying that on, and you've brought that to the awareness of people. One of our listeners has said, "This is Dennis. O'Connor, and he told me to say his last name whenever I talk about him. Richard is telling me, don't say people's last name that message in, so I wasn't doing that. And Dennis said, say my last name. Dennis O'Connor said, she is extremely well-spoken, a pleasure to listen to. So that is, that's how you come across. People don't,
Oh,
I've
thank
met
you. Thank you. I can't hear myself, but thank you.
You sound great. I also have a couple of questions I'd like you to be thinking about. We're going to go to a break, but I want you to think about this. This comes from Carolyn Stevenson. She said, was he as romantic in person as he appeared on the films and in his songs and all that? And she wanted to know what was the most romantic thing y'all ever did, like on a date or something, what he did for you. That comes from Carolyn Stevenson in Lubbock, Texas. And so if you want to think about that, or if you want to answer it, you may not even want to answer it, but if you want to think about that, okay. Mindy, we'll be right back in just a minute. You're listening to the Cindy Cochran Show. Oh yeah, real reality radio with Mindi Miller.
The Cindy Cochran Show, real reality radio.
Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's community radio station, and we are looking for talk show hosts and volunteer DJs for our music shows. Are you interested in having your own talk show on Lone Star, or have you always wanted to live out your dreams of being a music DJ? With the addition of Conroe's FM 104.5 and 106.1 and video aspects of our talk shows, we are needing people to grow with us. If you or someone you know might be interested, please contact us online at irlonestar.com/contact us, or call the station at 936-647-5747 for more information.
The Cindy Cochran Show, the first daily talk show serving Montgomery County.
Oh, yeah. What a day. What a day. We're so excited, so happy to have Mindi Miller with us. She was one of Elvis Presley's last girlfriend. They dated off and on for a couple of years, and she did stay in touch with him. She said even talked to him over the phone in early 1977. That correct, Mindi?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
I want to make sure.
The last time I saw him was at the end of November, 1976, and then I did get a call, and I wished him a happy birthday. It was probably around February, and I wished him a happy birthday, which he'd had, January the 8th, and It was the last time I spoke with him, and then I went to the funeral. But you
know, a lot of people, they know where they were when President Kennedy was assassinated. They know where they were, and different things happened, especially with Elvis Presley. A lot of people, especially my age, certainly knew exactly what was happening. I was pulling out of my grandmother's driveway and just stopped in the middle of the road when they said that. It was just, this isn't real. This isn't happening.
Complete disbelief.
No. Where were you when that call came?
I was driving the car that he had bought me, the Trans Am.
Yeah.
And, actually, I was not driving the car. I apologize. I had been driving the car prior to coming into my apartment. But I was driving the car and came into the apartment, and just a few minutes after I got into the apartment, the phone was ringing, and I got the call that he had passed, and I was just in shock, and I dropped to the floor with the phone in my hand, and I couldn't move. I was just stunned. I couldn't even react, Cindy. The first thing I said, to the person that called me, I said, she said, Mindi, and it was just like that. And knowing her and knowing her voice, the first thing I said to her, I said, he's gone, isn't he?
Oh,
just like that. I said, he's gone. I have this extra sensibility, and I know I do. Some people do, and you recognize it and you utilize it for the positive, which I always did. But I just, in her tonation of her voice,
right.
God just told me.
Mm-hmm.
He just told me, and I knew, and I said, he's gone, isn't he? And that's all she said is, Mindi, like that. And in the way that she said it, and knowing her as well as I did, I just knew. And then, sat on the floor. I couldn't move, and she said, Joe will be calling you shortly, and start packing and get out here.
Yeah.
And so they made arrangements for me to fly out for the funeral.
Oh, I'm so glad that you got to go. That you never know how those things are going to happen, and the politicking of it and all that stuff that happens. That I'm so glad you got to do that.
Yeah,
as
it was
closure.
It was something incredible and very memorable. But I was going to say on the lighter side, I remember you asking me about the romantic thing that the lady called. She wanted to know if he was in person as romantic as he seemed on the screen or in his concerts. Was that the question?
Right.
Yeah. Yes, he was. And even more so in person. He was the most handsome man I think I have ever on God's green earth laid my eyes on.
Oh, yeah.
He had the most chiseled face.
Mm-hmm.
It was as if God just took a chisel,
right,
and said, I'm going to carve out the most perfect-looking man that I can. And, it's funny because he was so handsome.
Right.
And, he was romantic in other ways, but I'll start with that. I remember when we would start to go to sleep, and I would watch him. I didn't sleep. I didn't take any sleeping meds or anything because I was watching him. And so there were many times where I'd kind of drift off to sleep, and then I'd wake up, and I would just watch him sleep.
That's so cool.
Just to watch this man sleep, I mean, you look at his profile, and he had the most gorgeous skin and eyelashes and eyebrows, and I wasn't looking at him as Elvis Presley, the entertainer, but as this incredible man that I had begun to know. And I just remember watching him sleep was romantic to me because he was just beautiful. I mean, you could not, the old stories of Prince Charming, when you see the storybooks and how the illustrators, portray these, Prince Charmings to be for the young girls, he was that. He looked like a Prince Charming. And then, of course, he dressed, one of the other romantic things for me was he dressed very Edwardian. I don't think people realize, but his style was very Edwardian.
Right.
And he loved the high collars, primarily because in the early days he said he didn't like his neck. So that's why he would turn his collars up, because he didn't like his neck.
Oh,
so
interesting.
A lot of people don't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't like his neck, which there was no reason not to like his neck. He had a beautiful long neck, but he loved to dress very Edwardian. If you look at his clothing and look back into the 17 and 1800s, you will see a lot of his colors were the very vibrant reds and very vibrant royal blues and yellows and purples, which purple for him and lavender were the highest spiritual color. And so he liked to surround himself with purples and things.
Well,
and those very rich royal colors.
And everyone thought of him as the king anyway. So, but that leads me to my next question. CJ also wanted to ask a question. It was if you knew who designed his, what he started wearing in Vegas, and that became his trademark, that, like you're talking about, the high collar and the real rich-looking pantsuit kind of that he had. Do you know who designed that? And was that his idea? Was that his design?
Something, I used to know the name of the guy that used to do all his suits, and I forget it right now.
Oh, that's okay.
I want to say Bill Ballou or something like that. I don't remember his name. I knew his name, and I have forgotten it. But, he started getting into the jumpsuits. In the early days, he would wear the velveteen shirt, and the kind of baggy pants, because that was very 50s and 60s and all that. And then later on, he went into the jumpsuits. But every jumpsuit that he had a specific meaning behind it. He loved peacocks. They were a very magical bird. They were actually a very spiritual bird to him. As I said, he loved animals. One of his suits, the dragon suit, had a lot of meaning, again, very spiritual. And he, the sunburst suits, and then he had the Indian motif suit.
Oh, yeah.
American Indian, which he loved.
I'll tell you, though, Mindy, you have to admit, when you saw him come out in that all black leather in that
Oh,
the
my
show that he
God.
did, drop dead gorgeous.
Drop dead. The
Ay,
68
ay,
comeback
ay.
special for me. The 68 comeback special for me in his black leather was just incredible. And,
That was insane. So great.
You know, and I mean, nobody can wear it better. And you know, he had to be hotter than Hades
I know.
with all those lights.
Yeah.
You know, people don't think about that, performing and, you know, and sitting and all that. But I mean, absolutely beautiful. He was a very romantic looking man.
Yes.
But he was very romantic as an individual human being. He would say things a lot of the times that were just the sweetest things. And I remember one night when we were sleeping, we were on tour. Well, he woke up in the middle of the night and he turned to me and he said, honey, call Charlie Hodge. And I said, what do you need Charlie for? I said, whatever, you know, what can I get you? He said, well, I want him to dye my hair. He says, and I want him to dye your hair too. I want your hair to be the same color as mine and jet black. And I had dark hair anyway, and it was pretty close to being black, but it wasn't black enough for him. And he said, I want it to look just like, you know, we're a real couple. Just, you know, just jet black. He wanted us to have the same color hair, which is what he had done in other relationships, you know. He loved that, and it reminded him of his mother. And so he seemed to look for girls that were very like his mother. And there was something about that was very romantic to me, because it was something about him that he reflected back on his mom, that he loved and he cherished her. And, you know, there were so many little things he did that were romantic. And I remember one night, again, we were sleeping, we were watching TV, and we turned the TV off, and it was just dark. We just started to go to sleep. And I remember about a half hour into it, he just, out of the blue, he said, honey, he said, I love you. And it was the first time he ever told me he loved me. And it was the middle of the night, and I was sleeping, and I mean, I wasn't sleeping, but we were on our way to go to sleep. And I thought, do I say this back to him? I was in such shock. I really, I could not believe it. And I didn't do anything. I just said, Elvis, I love you too. And I was in such shock. And I thought, oh my God, that is the most romantic thing.
Yes.
And it was just in that moment, in darkness, in complete silence. And so he was still laying there awake, and I guess he was
thinking,
you know,
about
just sort
it.
of, you know, not asleep yet. And he said, I love you. And I thought, oh my God, you know, that is the most romantic thing. And he did little things all the time. And he was just a very romantic man. Very, very romantic.
That is so great. I love that stuff. Mindy, talking to you is like you called me up and wanted to tell me about this date you had with this guy. And it's so fun.
Yeah.
That's how you talk about him.
He was so, you know, I could never talk about him to anybody because he didn't like it. So I've kept quiet for 40 years. He didn't want me to write a book. He asked me specifically, don't ever write about us. Whatever relationship we have is very private. And, you know, I don't want to mislead people. I was not the only girlfriend. I saw him very often on over a 2-year period. So I don't want to mislead people by thinking, you know, by them thinking, well, you know, we don't have that many pictures of her, or there's not that much, you know, I was not around as much as some of the other girlfriends were. That's true.
Right.
But I was so blessed to be able to know him and to be in this man's company and get to know him, and to be entrusted that he would confide in me things, and to be invited to the funeral. I mean, you know, so I always say to people, it's not how long you know someone or how many times you were in someone's company. It's how well did you get to know them.
Right. And on a level that he needed someone that he could talk to and relate to, and you had that. And that I've told girls before, you know, they say, well, he just wants to be for a friend, and I went, then that you've got the best part of him then, because that part is is much deeper, much more loyal and all that than someone who, you know, you date or you go out with.
Any part that he would give you, whether it be as a platonic friend, as a romantic friend, you know, as one of the bodyguards, anytime this man touched you was magical. There was no, I don't understand why there are still jealousies going on between people 40 years later. I think it's absolutely absurd. It's ridiculous. And Elvis was the most forgiving man. He forgave people that he may have felt at the time did him wrong, but this was not in his nature to hold a grudge. There are people that I know in the Elvis circle that have held grudges for 40 years, which means and tells me they didn't know the man at all.
Right.
Because that's not who he was. And these people were forgiven before Elvis ever passed away. He may not have rehired them or seen them again, but they were already forgiven because this is who the man was. And we have to remember that. He wanted everyone to like everybody, and he had so many different people around him, Cindy, of so many different personalities.
Yes,
that, of course personalities are going to clash, and that's normal.
And there's territorial stuff that I'm sure goes on, that who's closer to who.
But so if he touched you in any way, you were very lucky and very, very fortunate. It wasn't a matter, well, I knew him better, well, I knew him longer, well, I lived with him, well, I was married to him, well, I was this, well, I was that. It doesn't matter.
No.
You knew him, you were touched by him. He had love for every single person that he met. He had a different kind of love for each person. As we all do. I love many people, Cindy, in many different ways, in many different realms of life. So I want people to understand that it's not, well, she only knew him for this time, or he only knew that guy for that time. It didn't matter. Well, that's not what was important.
Did you feel like he ever had insecurity, or did he talk about being insecure because of popularity, because the Beatles came along and the different people that were coming along and taking, the country by storm? Did it bother him? Or was he grounded enough where
he was very grounded, but the thing is he I won't say he questioned, but there was concern that he had spoken to me but very, very briefly a couple of times, that if this is the new kind of, we used to call it then the English invasion, because it was the time of Mary Quant, Lulu, the Dave Clark Five, the Turtles. I mean, all these groups just came in, and it was a different time, and it was a different kind of music.
Right.
So, he was concerned that, that at those times it was a different kind of a music, and maybe he wasn't going to be lasting, but he knew by that time, obviously, that he had a huge fan base.
Sure.
And he had done a huge body of work, and he stayed very true to his music. He was not a person that wanted his music ever fiddled with. He did not want his music touched.
And he wasn't gonna cover the Beatles or anything like that, because he
wasn't gonna change his music. He wanted his music a very certain way. He was very particular about it. He did not like the Colonel or RCA messing around with his music. He did not like it. He had a very specific beat in mind. He had a very specific way about him. So sometimes I question whether his music has been changed. Is that what he would have wanted? Some people say he would have. We'll never know.
Right, right. But I think that it keeps it alive in that sense, so that there's a positive side to that, but not to take it ever away from the original, artist and how he sang it and what it meant to him and all. But I think that the compliment that the Beatles and all them gave him is because they said if it wasn't for Elvis, we couldn't be doing what we're doing, because we have borrowed from him. We've sang his songs and stuff.
Well, and everybody said that. Chuck Berry said that. Sammy Davis Jr. said that. So many people said that, because he became iconoclastic in the Americana dream.
The fact that you can say that word
of changing music, But it's like he used to say to me and say to other people, he was so used to as a young boy singing in church, and basically they were the black churches. And if you've ever been to a black congregational church, which I have many times and love them, especially because of their singing, they are God Almighty out there. They are not quiet people.
Amen, brother.
They are swinging and swaying back and forth, and they are clapping their hands. and they are jubilant for
So
God.
demonstrative,
Absolutely jubilant. And, you know, Elvis had that natural beat, and so he became a part of that. So he did not know how to sing without moving. It was just a part of him.
See, and it wasn't anything he was trying to, put over or be mad.
No, he wasn't trying to be sexy. It was just who he was.
Just had to move.
And by being genuinely and authentically who he was on stage and not trying to be anybody else but just him, because he never had a mentor that said, well, get up there and do this and do that.
That's what we liked about him. So raw. It was so raw.
Yes, and that's why I love him even more when I look back into the 50s and 60s as I'm older now, and I see the change. Because remember, Cindy, I met him as a man. I did not meet him as an entertainer.
That's what I love that.
I did not know him and his history as much as I do now, all these years later. I met him as a human being. So if you would have asked me certain things then,
it would have been
you're asking me now.
Right.
I don't know that I would have even been able to answer them.
Okay,
but I was so into the man.
But Mindi, I have a very important question before we go, because we got to get out of here. But Mindi, here's the question: was he a good kisser?
He was a great kisser.
I just knew it. I knew it.
He was so romantic, and he had the softest lips and the softest skin and the softest face, and he was a very, very tender man and very loving man, and he loved women.
See, but you answered the all important question that has been on everybody's mind, women's mind. Was he a good kisser? So you have answered that. You're so amazing. You're so generous in giving us this insight. And Mindi, I just love talking to you, whether I'm shopping at Kroger and I get a call from you and we're and I want to hand the phone to somebody and say, this is Elvis Presley's girlfriend. But no,
there's so many more stories and so many things that I was hoping we'd be able to talk about.
Well, listen,
that have never been told or never been heard.
Oh, listen, you listen. Your name is in our database now, and your number. And so, Mindi, we're going to talk again. You know that we're going to talk again, and I will be calling you.
I hope so, because there are some incredible things that I think his fans would love to hear.
Oh yeah,
that have never been told. That because I was with him in that time frame, that nobody else would know, and they've never been written about, and they've never been spoken about.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, you have just, thrilled us, and I just thank you so much for this interview. And I will be contacting you and calling you, and we're going to get together again, because I enjoy talking to you so much. And this really is just like, we know everybody that's listening knows someone that dated Elvis, and you talk to us just like, hey, guess what I did last night? Guess who I met?
I know. Well,
so
I'm still excited
that.
about this man. All these years later, he for me is still alive.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
That's
His
right.
Spirit is still alive within me, and I love him. I miss him terribly, and I'm very excited about him every day. There's not enough I can do for him and his legacy.
Well, you've done a great job today, and there's so much about you we want to get to know. So we're going to be coming back, and we're going to be talking to you. I don't know what just happened, an explosion. It was a fan base or something. But we'll be talking to you very soon, and we thank you. We hope you have a great day, and I know God has been blessing you. So it's
Thank you, Cindy.
Great.
He blessed me the day I met Elvis, and ever since, and I just want to wish you and Dick and everybody a very blessed day, and thank all your listeners for tuning in and listening. And if they want to find me on Facebook and chat and talk, I've got 2 different pages, and they're more than welcome to find me and hook up. And I talk to everybody, and the fans will tell you I answer everybody and I talk to everybody.
Well, we'll certainly put that up on the Facebook, and anything you want to share on my Facebook, just drop it in. It's absolutely fine. We'd love to have you. And so, guys, also remember that this is going to be on my Facebook page. We'll let you know when this show will be up. It'll probably be about 48 hours. We'll have the show up, and you can listen to it if you missed any of it, and you're just coming in going, what? I missed that front part. No, we'll have it for you.
I know, right?
Thank you, Mindi. Thank you. You have a great day, and we'll
Thank you, Cindy.
Talking soon.
All right, dear. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Oh, my word. Richard, we just got to talk to this amazing person, and we're almost out of time. So do you want to take a break, or do you want to just go through it? Okay, all right. That was Mindi Miller, and we will have her show up. You can go to YouTube on my channel. She's going to also, I think she'll put it on her Facebook as well, she said. But it'll be on YouTube, my channel, and also on SoundCloud. SoundCloud.com, of course, holds all of our sound. It's great. SoundCloud.com. And you can just search The Cindy Cochran Show. And if you subscribe to my channel, Richard, can you tell them how to subscribe to my channel?
Yeah, you click the subscribe button. Isn't that crazy?
You see, it's so easy for some of you. Yeah, right. No, the subscribe button is all you push, and then you're part of the family, and you'll get all the updates on when shows are ready and that kind of thing. Correct, Richard? Isn't that right? That they do have that?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
They can subscribe, and I think on SoundCloud you might have to create an account. For YouTube, same thing. And what's nice about it, if you do create an account, it will email you every time a Cindy show has been uploaded. So it's worth it if you want to subscribe. Yeah, and we definitely want you to subscribe. I need to tell you about tomorrow. We have this is so wonderful. I love this kind of story. Just happened to meet this girl. She's 14 years old. She was at the Conroe Coffee, and she was talking about the honey that they have on sale there in Conroe Coffee, and that honey goes to help a project they have. And I said, well, what's the project? And she said, it's the refuge at Grace Ranch. And I said, and who benefits from this? And she said, well, we are building cabins to help women and children who have been battered. And we bring them in, and we teach them how to grow their own food, and we teach them how to, and through the Bible and God's Word, that we help them get themselves back into a stronger person, and that they realize they can do this on their own. And so I went, this little 14-year-old girl is telling me this, and I went, you need to be on my show and talk about this, and we'll tell people what they can do to help you guys. And so, because what they're doing is they're doing this, they have a bee farm, part of their big farm, their ranch, and they sell this honey, and the sales from the honey is going to help build these cabins. So I'm going to have William, her dad, and Rachel, the 14-year-old girl, tomorrow, and they're going to talk about this. But to hear such a young person with such an amazing goal and vision, and this is what she's going to do. It's not playing Minecraft or playing video games, or it's not just making sure her makeup looks right and about boys and all that kind of stuff. This is a really grounded 14-year-old, and there's hope. There's hope for these young people that have that kind of heart. And speaking of that kind of heart, that's who we just spoke to, Mindi Miller, one of Elvis's last girlfriends, and his world, and about that life that we didn't know that part of Elvis, that he was very spiritual, that he wanted to do good, and he loved talking about it, but he had a hard time finding people to surround himself that would talk that way. But Mindi did. Mindi, gave him that. And to find that out, if you're anyone who's spiritual and you find out this entertainer that all you thought was drugs and rock and roll, that wasn't true, and that there was someone who in there that really had a great story. Now she will come back, because we've got to find out a lot of things. And I know I had the most in-depth question: was he a good kisser? And she certainly agreed to that he was, and we knew it. We just, all the women that watched all his movies knew that. So that was great to find that out. Okay, guys. So don't miss tomorrow. We'll be here and learn about how you can be involved in helping battered women and children. The Cindy Cochran Show, real reality radio.
Thanks for checking out this production on Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's radio station. For more information on this show and other shows on Lone Star, check us out online at irlonestar.com. If you're interested in sponsoring a program on Lone Star Community Radio and reaching the local audience of Montgomery County on FM, internet, and TV media, please call 936-647-5747 or contact us online at irlonestar.com. This recording is a Lone Star Community Radio production, produced by the show host and Dick Schisler of Lone Star Community Radio. Interested in volunteering as a music DJ or starting your own talk show? Contact Dick Schisler at dick@irlonestar.com or by phone at 936-647-5747.